Hey there, I'm John. So I've worked for Home Depot, Rona, Lowe's, Leon's Brick, Best Buy, CES, Temperaments. I did all their installs for 5 to 6 years, and I learned a lot within this time period. I went to North American Trade School. I got my gas fitting ticket, and I graduated to being an HVAC tech. Now, I thought there was a lot of competition in that business, and so I went into specialty into appliances and home maintenance and working with landlords, rentals, Airbnbs, because this is a niche network that you can learn a lot from, and so that's what brings me here today. So yeah, I do home maintenance and appliance repair, drain clean. That's my specialty now. So it's the most important thing about a house is inspecting a house and seeing everything that it has to offer: utilities, foundation, drainage, where your eaves troughs are, if you have any eaves troughs. These are all very important details to point out, but also re-inspect over time. If you own your home, if you're a renter, if you're just looking at a house, if you're looking to purchase, all of this knowledge that I'm about to prepare, that I've prepared, is super valuable in the long term for your grandparents, for your parents, for yourself, for your kids, any future that way. So what I'd like to really talk about in protecting your home with rental, your home or rental with regular inspections. So that's checking your plumbing. So going underneath the sink. What I'd like to do is every couple of months, if it's a rental, you go underneath the kitchen sink and making sure that there's no leaks, there's no damages. And if you do see damages, it's to how we're going to prevent those damages now. So either with different sealants, either finding out if it's copper, if it's PEX, knowing all these little individual pieces of a home can save you a lot of headaches in the future. So with regular inspections, prevent these issues and damage with preventative maintenance, so adding preventative maintenance into your inspection, which is, if you have a fridge, well, you want to make sure that the fridge has good airflow. Is it in a cabinet? Is it in a basement? Do you have cats? Do you have dogs? All these things add up. So because if you have cats and dogs, well, lots of hair can get underneath the fridge and can get collected in the coils. And so that prevents good airflow to the fridge, and that can create issues long-term for cooling and creating issues being efficient. So it's costing you more money in electricity to just run the same appliance. That's just a example. We'll go into more examples later. Understanding your property. So being familiar with your utilities, finding the locations of your disconnections. So if you don't know where your water shut off, your main water shut off in the house, you should really go and find that. I've been into homes where they fully renovated the house and it looks beautiful, and then you go to work on the dishwasher and you can't find the main water shut off. That is very dangerous, because if you have a leak, well, you have to be able to prepare to fix that leak. And so your main water shutoff is going to stop all that main flow. Other examples, your electrical panel, making sure you know where the electrical panel is, how to turn it off, how to turn it on. If you have an electrical issue, let's say you're in a kitchen and you're plugging in something into your GFI, which is a certain type of plug. It's a ground faulting circuit breaker almost. And if that goes off if it trips at the main panel, well, you want to be able to find the panel so you can turn it back on. But if it turns off, there's an issue. So you want to find where that issue is. Either there's a connection issue, wires, touching the box, little things like that. You want to find where your gas shut off is, where your meter is outside, just in case if you did ever smell gas, which kind of smells like rotten eggs a little bit, then you want to be able to know where, if your gas stove is leaking a little bit or the knob is stuck or something is broken, then you know where the gas shutoff is in your home, usually in the basement near your furnace. Your furnace switch, there's always a switch that's attached to your furnace, and sometimes it looks like a light switch, and sometimes if it's not marked, you want to know what the actual switch is. So it's usually near the furnace or in the furnace room, and you always want to keep it on. What I personally do, I put a piece of tape on the on position so it never mistakenly gets turned off. Because HVAC companies will still charge you to come out and just to turn on a switch if your furnace is not working in that sense. Mistakes happen. Your AC disconnect, which is outside connected to your AC. Sometimes if somebody's rustling through your backyard, or you're just moving into a building and the power's not on to your AC, sometimes there's a breaker out there or there's an actual disconnect. Finding that is really important as well. Your main drain clear out. So if you have a kitchen sink, finding where, if you have a clog, well, you want to be able to access that clog through a drain clear out, which is underneath the sink. Usually in older homes, if it's copper, they might not have those clear outs. So you'll have to get those installed. But most houses have that. And you want to be able to find where your main stack is, which is the main stack of your plumbing, where your toilet, your drains are all collecting. And sometimes, depending on where it's located, it could be hidden behind walls, and you want to have access to those things in the future for any damages or clogs. Being familiar with your fire alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, testing those detectors. I like doing that every 3 to 6 months, making sure that the batteries are up to date, or if it's a plug-in, making sure that the wiring is still connected and everything's working properly. Those are important things as of safety. If you have a rental or if it's an Airbnb, making sure those things are regularly tested so you know in your future that everybody will be safe. And other things, fire extinguishers and fire escapes, making sure that you know where you can leave. If you're leaving out of a top level of a building, it's best to have a fire escape. So that's like some ladders that go out through the top, and so you can actually leave out to the top of a building. I find that's really important. Fire extinguishers, obviously everybody should have those. Appliance care. So I specialized in appliances by taking home broken appliances and literally fixing them at home and then selling them. And that's kind of how I really started learning how to fix appliances, learn what maintenance needs to be done. And then we'll go into a few more details there. So understanding each appliance and its function and the future precautions and benefits. So your fridge and freezer. What can happen with a fridge and freezer is obviously it cools. The freezer is colder, obviously, than the fridge. And what can happen sometimes is that a fridge can leak. Well, understanding that it builds condensation and it drips down and it kind of cools down the compressor, understanding that can help the future of your whole home. The most expensive place is the fridge and freezer. It holds the most food. It holds all the expensive items. And making sure that you can clean the coils, like I had said earlier, and making sure it has good airflow. Now, other things that you might want to know is your stove, your washer, your dryer, dishwasher, ice makers, dehumidifiers, and humidifiers. Making sure that these are in running condition. To make sure that they're in running condition, though, is understanding what they do. So obviously, if it's a stove, if it's a gas stove, obviously it has gas, and making sure you have the shutoffs, you make sure that it's working condition. But and so the benefits of like having a gas stove versus an electric stove would be, gas burns hotter, cooks faster, but electric is safer, right? But if you have a gas stove versus an electric, you want to make sure you have your venting. Not all homes have venting. So you want to make sure that the venting is in working condition, but also if you have a gas stove, then you also want to make sure that you have your carbon monoxide detectors up to date and working, because if a gas stove is not vented, then you're going to build up your air, the air quality is diminished, and you'll have to, you'll want to make sure that the carbon monoxide detector is working so your air quality in the home is up to par. Sorry, I might ramble here and there. But yes, so understanding your washer and dryer. So obviously you have water lines attached to your washer, you have a drainage hooked up to your washer. You want to make sure that the drainage is not clogged, and making sure that you're behind your washer, there is no leaks from your hoses. And so you'll want to understand and inspect these things, every once in a while. I like every 3 to 6 months. It's always a good thing walking around the house, making sure, because a washer can leak. If you have it in a main bedroom, a main floor, it can leak if it doesn't have a drain underneath, and you can damage your property. I like my washers and dryers in the basement. I find if it does have any leaks or damages, it's usually on concrete or already near a drain, and it's not going to flood your house. Now, understanding each of these, so it's like a dryer, it can come gas, it can come electric, it can come ventless. It's important to understand as well where the gas shutoff is, where your main switch is for your dryer, and making sure that, with a dryer, that you're going to be checking the venting. What I like to do is check the venting every 6 months to a year, and make sure that it's not clogged, because you can actually, the dryer is less efficient when you have too much lint build up into your machine, but also in the vent line. And depending on the venting that you have, if you have hard pipe venting, the lint blows out a lot easier. If you have corrugated venting, then the lint builds up faster over time. Some people, they like to replace that, get the hard pipe, or you can get a flexible metal pipe, but is weaker and can get crushed a little bit easier, which can, if you have a gas dryer, then that can blow carbon monoxide back into the house and create venting issues, and then you might run into repairs. With a dishwasher, it's really, I think dishwashers are the most dangerous thing for rentals and Airbnbs, because you have water, you got drainage, you got electrical, you've got making sure that has to be sealed properly. There's a lot of components that come to a dishwasher. And as a homeowner, understanding all these components can make you more aware of the issues that you might run into. So an example with a dishwasher is that they get usually clogged very easily. If you're putting a lot of food in the dishwasher, then it can clog if you're not cleaning it out every once in a while. I would recommend if you're doing dishes once a day, like most people, I would be cleaning the filter every 3 to 4 times a week. Making sure your filter is clean, it is going to improve the efficiency of your drain pump, your circulation pump, and how clean your dishwasher is. A lot of bacteria builds up in a dishwasher, and that's where you get a lot of smells. And understanding all these components can make your life a little bit easier, especially, knowing where the drain output is to your dishwasher, where your water shutoff is to your dishwasher. Because if you have a leak, which is very common with that type of machine, you want to be safe and not create any mold or any water damage. Dishwashers can be kind of devastating. Understanding a dehumidifier and a humidifier. These are 2 things that I recommend in every home. If you have a basement that's very damp, a dehumidifier is probably your best friend. And making sure that it's clean and it's working, especially after the melt. So after the winter, when everything's melted, all the snow is on the roof, it falls down off your eaves troughs, and then it's collecting around your house. And if you don't have proper drainage away from your house, sometimes that backwater, and if you don't have a sump pump, can kind of, that groundwater will come back into the home. And having a dehumidifier is going to protect your home from excess moisture, foundation issues, erosion on your foundation. So understanding and having these things are super important. Understanding your microwave, if it's a countertop or an over the range. I personally recommend a countertop over the range microwave, just purely out of cost. A countertop dishwasher you can buy for $20 to $40 used all day long, but an over the range microwave, it can, when it breaks, it really breaks, and they're more expensive because now you got to take it down, you got to reinstall it. That comes with more labor. So I think there's benefits and disadvantages of having each of these machines, and knowing what to do with them. Oops. So wrong one. With appliances, I get this question all the time. What's the best brand? What should I buy? Well, it really comes down to two factors: a locally produced appliances versus imported appliances. So you have your local, which would be Amana, KitchenAid, Whirlpool, kind of GE, not really anymore. And then you have your imported appliances like Samsung, LG, Media. I think GE is mostly kind of importing a lot of their parts from Mexico, and Chinese parts, being created in Mexico with Chinese parts. And these are important things to know, because the difference between a locally made machine is that you have the parts here already available, and when you go to fix them, you can get everything fixed within a reasonable amount of time. Where in an imported appliance like a Samsung, LG, these parts are all coming from China, Korea, and so it takes time to get them over, but also costs more because now you have shipping. Now you have time. If you have a rental, well, they need their appliances. So why I bring that up is that because if owning an Amana dishwasher is easier to take care of than it is a Samsung, just built on quality itself. I consider a Samsung a luxury product because it has so many options, so many electronics, many more issues than a locally produced Amana or a Whirlpool. I think they have a little bit less technology going into them, and they're a little more simple to understand. But then also realizing what's the difference between a classic design versus a luxury design. Again, I'm going to use Samsung as a luxury design with so many different options, but with more options comes with more damages, in my opinion. They're more expensive to repair, just like a car. A heated seat, electric seat, these things break. I like to just stick to the basics and have more mechanical pieces, which is just having less electronics. So your classic designs would be having a top-loading washing machine versus a front-loading washing machine. Because the top-load washing machine, in my opinion, is a better design than having a front-loading, is because it uses more water. I know there's the argument of more water means more money, but having more water is a better transfer for cleaning your clothes, which can, get cleaner clothes. Yes, it costs you a little bit more water, but the design will always last a little bit longer than a front loader. There's just more moving parts, more issues, in my opinion. I'll just go on to the next one here. Yeah. So appliance maintenance. So a couple of examples, like I said earlier, fridges, they need airflow. Your freezers, they need airflow. Without this, it's going to cost you more money in electricity. So this is taking a look at your coils, pulling out the fridge every 3 to 6 months, making sure that the back is nice and clean, making sure that you have lots of room around the fridge. You don't want a fridge that fits in place perfectly if you have it around a cabinet. In my opinion, this is just it's an early death sentence. Another thing with stoves. So if you have a gas stove in that, for instance, well, you have top igniters and burners. Well, what happens is when you're cooking spaghetti, things splatter, oil splatter, and sometimes that can get into your igniters, which actually ignites the flame. Making sure that all of that area is clean is going to ensure that you can start up your stove every time. And if you can't start up the stove every time, well, what happens is that now you have gas leaking and it's not actually igniting, which is a safety issue. So making sure that you're maintaining these things is going to make sure that all of your appliances are going to work for a long time. Dishwashers. What I recommend every 3 to 6 months with a dishwasher is cleaning it with, if it's after warranty, what I like to use is a 1/4 cup of bleach after the first 2 minutes of the dishwasher running. What this does is that the first 2 minutes of the dishwasher running is a drain feature. And so that's going to suck out all your old dirty water, and then it'll start filling up after those 2 minutes. And then I will open up the dishwasher. I'll throw a 1/4 cup of bleach in the bottom, and that will circulate through your dishwasher, keeping it clean from bacteria and other buildup. And so I recommend doing that every 6 months to a year, just to make sure that the dishwasher's clean and sanitized. It also keeps the circulation pump nice and clean and the drain pump nice and clean. And when it goes through the drain line, it actually goes through your sink. And now you're actually getting bleach through the sink, and it pressurizes and cleans. I find this is one thing that everybody should do, but nobody does, because dishwashers always die faster than probably everything else in the house. Inspecting the dishwasher, looking underneath and making sure that you have, for one, no mice, no leaks. All these things can help you with a long-term working dishwasher. Your washing machines, and making sure that it's clean, using the right detergent. There's a huge thing going on right now where I'm finding most of my clientele, they're using too much detergent in their washing machine. You should be only using a tablespoon of washing machine soap. And because if you're using a high efficiency soap and you're using a high efficiency machine, you don't need the full cup that they recommend right from the manufacturers. They're overselling you soap, and you're overusing soap, and your clothes actually never fully rinse any soap out of the clothes when you're using too much soap. And so a good way to check if you're using too much soap is just start your washing machine and see if there's suds build up without any clothes, without any soap in there. If you're seeing suds with no soap, you're using too much soap, and there's a lot of buildup. To help with this buildup in your washing machines, I recommend using borax, baking soda, vinegar. All these three different ingredients I find really help scrape. If you're using a top-loading washing machine, a lot of that soap, fabric softeners, they build on the side of the washing machine. And by using borax, like it's kind of like a granular material, and it actually kind of scrubs and cleans the machine. So you're actually getting clean clothes. I find a lot of people don't actually have clean clothes. If you look on the inside of your washing machine, they're usually very disgusting. So I like using borax for that exact reason. Another piece of maintenance, I know I already kind of talked about that, vent cleaning. The rule of thumb is check every year, clean every other year. And then I recommend cleaning the inside of your dryer. So when you pull out your lint trap, there's lots of lint that gets through that trap. And so what I recommend is taking a hose with your vacuum, cleaning inside the vent. This can actually prevent a lot of issues with certain parts. The thermostat, there's a thermal cutoff inside the machine. By cleaning that vent more regular, your dryer is actually more efficient because it's not collecting humidity in the lint. Another thing would be your range hoods. Another thing that is mostly forgotten and really does kill your range hood. If you're cooking with a lot of oil, there's filters underneath your range hood. And the oil gets built up, and then your fan motor actually works harder trying to suck air through this filter. So what I recommend is soaking those filters in vinegar or running them through the dishwasher regularly, once a month, once every 2 months, just to make sure that you're getting good airflow, but also not going to destroy your range hood long-term. Garburator, this is another thing. I mean, I know they're illegal technically now in brand new builds, but a lot of older homes still use carburetors. And so making sure that this is clean, this can create a lot of clogs, create a lot of bacteria, a lot of smell. A great one that I've learned is throw a whole bucket of ice and lemons down your carburetor and grind them up. And this really cleans out the inside of your carburetor. And then you can always pour bleach at the end to really disinfect it. So that's that. So plumbing fixtures and drains. This is really, really important to understand. A lot of people don't understand them. So with your toilets, well, you want to make sure if it's leaking that you have access to that leak. So having an open basement is really important. If it's an enclosed finished basement, that can create more issues in your future, in my opinion. Having a drop ceiling is a lot more important, especially with your plumbing and all of your utilities. knowing where all the faucets are, your shutoffs to your faucets, making sure if you do have a leak, well, then you're able to turn it off and prevent any damage with those shutoffs. So adding shutoffs where if you have an older house, a bathroom faucet, and it doesn't have any shutoffs, well, sometimes if you need to repair that or if you need to replace it, it's easier to just shut that off and replace it. So understanding where they are and where the water lines come in, that's really important. Sinks, so understanding where all their sinks are, your drains, your showers. Each of these things can create damages to your home if you're not inspecting them, but also if they're not in good condition. So if your sinks, usually if it's an undermounted sink, you want to make sure you have caulking around the sink to make sure you're not having overflow issues and water damage to all your cabinets. Your bathtubs, your showers, making sure and checking all the ceiling and the caulking around, or if you have tile, sometimes the tile can crumble. I made a point having access to your main stack, usually in the basement. And then understanding drain venting. Understanding drain venting can create a lot of, so if you're putting in plumbing in your house, that you're not attaching that to drain venting, which is usually a smaller pipe than your stack. Finding all the clear outs, where your sump pump would be in the basement. You want to make sure that that's clean, clear. I like putting CLR in the drain, in the sump pump every once a year, just to help with any mineral buildup. And then eaves trough drainage, making sure that your eaves troughs are away from your house. Ontario code states that it should be 10 feet away from the house. So your groundwater doesn't build up where the sump, if you don't have a sump pump, then that can create leaks and erosion on your foundation. So you want to make sure that all your eaves troughs are away from the house. And if you have large trees in the front of your house, this can affect your sewer drain. If you have an older cast iron, if it hasn't been replaced, the root system can get in there, and that can create blockages in your home, and then your whole home is full of sewage, which is not what you want. Preventing drain issues. So this is really important. I'm finding that, especially the last couple of years, there's a lot more drain issues I'm finding. And so adding sink strainers, disposing of your oils and fats, not down the sink, in the garbage, getting hair shower strainers to prevent any hair buildup in a shower. That's a really, really popular one. Drain blockage products, Drano. I really don't recommend Drano. Drano can be quite damaging if you're not using it properly. I recommend bleach. It's a little bit safer for your drainage, but also for you. Drano, what happens is the chemical process, when it hits water in a blockage, it actually heats up. And so if you have grease or hair, it's actually almost burning that product. But what the issue is with the very too much heat is that it can actually undo the glue in your plumbing. And I found that to be an issue when a homeowner isn't using Drano properly. So I'd rather use bleach as a disinfectant for your drains. And you can use that in every drain. It's a lot safer than Drano. Now, I know there's always a controversy against flushable wipes. No one should ever be flushing any wipes or anything but toilet paper down the sink or down the drains. This can lead to blockages, sewer issues, and if you have tree roots issues into your plumbing, then those flushable wipes can build up more and more and more, and that blockage can be really big. And you definitely want to keep away from that. Water damage prevention. So I like using dehumidifiers. Everyone should be using a dehumidifier in their house, in the basement, especially after the winter. I had said earlier, caulking, silicone, keeping these sealed. So anything that your showers, your bathrooms, your kitchens, I like around the baseboards of your in your kitchen, I recommend using caulking to keep, if you're mopping the floor, well, a lot of water will get underneath your baseboards and create damage. You should be using silicone or caulking to prevent those issues. Now, everybody should own a wet shop vac. This thing, that tool has made me thousands of dollars. and everybody should own it. If you have a drain issue, shop vac can usually fix a clog if you use it properly. But also, if you have any water damage, well, you can suck that up instantly and not have to call somebody if there is any damage. Making sure you have proper drainage. It's making sure that your drainage is not sloped the wrong way. If you have a bad drain in that instance, I already kind of talked on sump pumps, or I guess, and making sure that you have a lot of airflow in a damp place, or when you have water damage to prevent any damages. Importance of quality products and materials. So I would say if you're looking for appliances, well, I would be making sure that these are name brands and not just brands that you've never heard of before. There's a new brand called Media, very cheap brand. There is no parts for them. So repairing something like that is not really, it's impossible to repair because they don't sell parts for it. So I don't recommend buying these brands. So you should be doing your research when you're buying stuff like that. Make sure you have good warranties, and actually seeing the physical product. Over COVID, there was a lot of problems where you see the product online, you order it, and it gets to your house, it's not the same. One instance, KitchenAid fridges, very, very thin stainless steel, and it's like warped steel already, and you wouldn't see that just from a picture. So I would recommend going to see the physical product in the stores so you can prevent these issues. Looking up the reviews, that can save you a lot of headaches by looking at previous reviews on mostly appliances that I'm talking about. And I recommend staying away from Amazon products when it comes to plumbing, coming to appliances. The quality of these items are very, very cheap with no warranties. Bad issues I'm finding. Stay away from the discount stores, clearance items. There's usually issues with appliances when it comes to clearance items, and you might just not see it until it's delivered to your house. Staying away from used appliances and fixtures. If you're going to buy a used appliance, do your research and make sure it's a good machine. Because that has happened a lot with my clients, buying a used machine and it shows up, it's already broken and they didn't even know. Eco-friendly products, I had already kind of talked on this with your drainage, but also around the whole house. Steam would probably be the best thing to clean your house, or most, your fridges, your dishwashers, your stoves. It's just an easy way to really, really clean very well. Preventing heat loss and drafts. I mean, having insulation, using spray foam if you have foundation cracks or holes into the house, through your HVAC hole for your your AC lines, making sure that is filled so you're not getting mice in your house and not getting drafts. Plastic shrimping old windows to save you money. That could save you a lot of money by wrapping your windows every winter. Using caulking sealants and vapor barriers to keep out any drafts, any exterior environment issues. Quick thing on hot water heaters here. Some people, should I go with electric? Should I go with gas? That depends on your house and depends on how many people you have in the house. Electric is good if you're only a couple of people. Gas is great if you really need good heat all the time and you're running through hot water all the time. In my opinion, that's probably the best option. Tank or tankless, me personally, I don't like tankless. I find that they have more issues. The maintenance is higher, the parts are more expensive, and sometimes the repairs are not repairable, in my experience anyway. And then high efficiency versus conventional hot water tanks. I'm a conventional hot water tank guy. They don't use any electricity. It only uses gas, compared to a high efficiency where it uses gas and electricity. So if the power goes out, well, now your high efficiency hot water tank has no hot water. And you're running out of hot water if you're out of power. Improving your hot water heater with regular flushes, changing the anode rod, probably every less than 10 years, I would assume. And a sediment filter can really save the life of every water item in your house, but especially hot water tanks. And prevent heat loss with insulated water pipes using insulators, wraps, things like that. So yes, that is the ramble that I have kind of thrown together here, but I appreciate you listening and maybe taking some of my advice. If you have any questions, I always give out free advice. If you want to give me a call, send me a text. I can talk you through a lot of issues, but if you have any appliance issues, repairs that you need, or maintenance, give me a call or text. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for all of you for attending. Thank you to the London Environmental Network for being such a gracious host. Greatly appreciated. All right, first what I'm going to do really, really fast, I'm going to have Paul give me a hand here. We're going to hand out these booklets. Most importantly, when you get your booklet, open it up to page 15. So page 15 is a homeowner's maintenance checklist. So this is actually providing you with a seasonal checklist. It's hard to remember. Owning a home, remembering absolutely everything that you should be looking for, looking at what you need to do. This is a nice little guide from season to season to season on things that you should be looking for and taking into consideration. All things that are going to help you save money and hopefully prevent a very expensive, unexpected repair. So please keep that. It's yours. Keep it in a safe place. At the beginning of every season, think of this, pull it out, take a look at it, and give yourself a friendly reminder in terms of the things that you need to look for. Okay? So there's that. Okay. All right, so Donaldson Home Services. First, I'm Nathan Crandall. I'm the sales manager and operations manager with the team. And I've been in the industry now since I was 17, so quite a long time. And as far as okay. So what we specialize in residential. We do a little bit of commercial, but specifically we do a lot of residential heating, air conditioning, water heaters, ductwork systems. We specialize in ductwork, airflow, indoor air quality products. We also do plumbing, bathroom renovations. We do a whole host of different things. I'm just going to come over here. Okay, air filters. Have you sort of, well, first of all, it's heating and cooling stuff, so not a whole lot of excitement here, but have you ever wondered why are there so many different size of filters? Probably not. But there are a lot of different sizes. And how do you really know that what you have as an air filter is the right air filter for your system or for your home? How do you really know? Now, any of you have this, just a 1-inch regular air filter? Show of hands. Who has a 1-inch filter? Yeah. How many have a wider filter, bigger filter? It's more common. It's good to see those hands. That's good to see. Well, the air filter is extremely important for your HVAC system. This is extremely important to help keep your equipment clean. It's also there for safety reasons, right? And it's also there to help with your utility costs. So, these 1-inch filters. Unfortunately, still today, when we go out to take a look at heating and cooling systems, we will see a lot of these 1-inch filters. Well, when we have heating and cooling systems that are quite large. So if you have a large home and you have a heating system that is 80,000 BTUs and larger, so furnaces are rated in BTUs. So if you look at the rating plate, if you feel comfortable enough to turn the power off, that switch that Jonathan was talking about, that should be labeled as furnace, to shut the power off to the furnace, take off the front door, take a look at the inside cover, you'll see a BTU rating. And if you see that your furnace is 80,000 BTUs or larger, and you have a 1-inch filter, you need to have a larger filter. Air conditioning. If your air conditioning system is 2.5 tons or 30,000 BTUs or larger, we require a larger air filter. Now, this is a 1-inch filter. I'm going to have a little bit of fun here. This was a 5-inch filter that I decided to tear apart. I'll have you grab that end. So all of you that have a 5-inch filter, guess what? You can get a lot more airflow through this filter than you can, thank you for that, than this 1-inch filter. If I were to take the cardboard apart on this 1-inch filter, this is it. This is all you're getting. So when we go to a larger filter, we can actually go with a bit of a denser filter material, right? And get better airflow and get better overall filtration. So that is extremely important. Now, what does an air filter really do? Any guesses?
Filters air.
Many, many years ago, did anyone ever have an old gravity-fed heating system that had no fan motor on it? Did it have an air filter?
I don't remember.
It wouldn't have. Air filters only became a thing when we went to forced air heating and cooling systems. We use fan motors, especially when we transitioned from the old mid-efficiency furnaces that were unfortunately very wasteful and not good for our environment to high-efficiency heating systems where all of a sudden we had more components, we had more steel within the heat exchanger, we were extracting that heat, using that heat to heat your home, right? All of a sudden it became important to keep that stuff very, very clean. Because if we didn't keep it clean and that stuff got clogged up with dirt and debris, we now create an unsafe situation. We don't want that. The furnace can overheat. And if it overheats, you do not want something in your home that's overheating. Okay? And when that equipment's getting blocked, guess what happens? You got to pay for us to come out. That's not a good thing. We start getting service calls, you start getting repairs, you have more wear and tear on other components of the heating system, like igniters and gas valves and inducer motors. Components like that start to fail very, very quickly, and those are expensive repairs. So filters, first and foremost, are there to keep the equipment clean. There are other products on the market that actually tackle indoor air pollution. Things like ventilation systems, sterilizing the air with proper UV, being able to purify the air with certain air cleaners. So there are different products to help with all that other air pollution. Air filters are there to stop mostly the larger particulate. Now, what is MERV? That's an important thing. MERV. How do you know which filter to purchase? If you have a 1-inch filter, what you want is a filter that will actually have a MERV rating on it. And MERV 8 is the filter, if you have a 1-inch, that you're looking for. You do not want to go down to a MERV 6. If you go down to a MERV 6, you're allowing a lot of the big dust, debris, you're allowing all of that stuff to get into the equipment, and you're going to have issues. You do not want to go to a MERV 8, and I'm just going to actually fast forward a little bit here to this. This is a 1-inch filter from 3M. This is a MERV 13, and we'll talk about the different ratings in a moment. But that MERV 13 filter as a 1-inch filter, you as a homeowner need to understand that you have more than enough airflow getting to that system for the size of equipment that you have. Is your return air ductwork large enough? Do you have enough return air grills? Are all those return air grills pulling air from within the home? Do we have enough supply open? And if you know all of that, then yes, you can get away with a filter like this. But change it on a monthly basis, and the manufacturer recommends to change that filter on a monthly basis. It's already extremely dense to begin with. We start to load that up. It doesn't take very long before we start to impact how that equipment's going to work. Overheating, your utility bill, your gas bill is going to go up because your furnace is working far too hard. So I'm not saying don't use it. You just need to know if you can use it or not. So having a 1-inch filter and going up into these MERV 11 and MERV 13 ratings, just be cautious. Our recommendation, and for our company, 1-inch filters, we only offer MERV 8. We will not even sell over the counter anything more. We won't do it. If it's a larger filter, not a problem. Does that make sense? So MERV. MERV means minimum efficiency reporting value. Basically, higher the number, the more stuff you are filtering out of the air. Okay, the better your air quality is going to become. Larger filters, you can get away with going to a MERV 11 or a MERV 13 filter. This one that I tore apart was a MERV 11 filter. You can get away with that. With a MERV 11 filter, you are now tackling things in your home such as some of the larger mold spores and pet dander, smoke, some of your finer particulate, whereas say a MERV 8, you're not going to tackle that stuff to the same degree. And on this chart, we get down to MERV 20. That is the best filtration that you can have in your home. We're now tackling viruses. We're now tackling smaller mold spores. Things that can really affect us if we have some sort of dealing with some sort of respiratory condition. This is the type of filtration you should be aiming for. But when we get to MERV 20, that filtration is so dense. They do not make 1-inch filters that are in the MERV set. Well, you won't see them in MERV 14 to MERV 20. You won't see it. But with MERV 20, you're probably all familiar with the word HEPA. That becomes HEPA filtration, and it comes in a bypass form. That will actually have its own motor, its own canister with its own piping connected to your ductwork to clean the air, because it's just too dense to have in the main ductwork. Your furnace fan motor won't be able to pull through and make it work. I have this picture up here just to talk about electronic air cleaners. Anyone here have an electronic air cleaner? No, there are so many different electronic air cleaners out there, I don't even really know where to begin. So it's important to note that if you do have one, do a little bit of research on how to clean and maintain it. You need to know the manufacturer's information on how to maintain it. A common thing that I've seen over the years is homeowners placing what I call the cells or pre-filters into the dishwasher. Please don't do that. It can break the unit. You need to follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to clean it. Okay? A lot of electronic air cleaners are very good at removing smoke, mold spores to a degree, pet dander, things of that nature. Now, the second most important thing, airflow. I've been in thousands and thousands of homes doing many, many investigations. looking over things and trying to make things better. Number one reason for service calls, us coming out because you've got no heat and no cooling, inadequate airflow. It has nothing to do with your furnace. It has nothing to do with the components of your air conditioner. It has plenty to do with the airflow in your home. When we look at equipment, the larger the equipment, we must increase the airflow with that equipment in order for it to work efficiently and to give you the comfort that you're looking for. So it is important that your return air here, inside grills, and your supply air, outside grills, that you have enough of it to support the size of equipment that you need for the heat loss and heat gain of your home. Supplies, we're all familiar with those, right? We always see lots of these around the house, don't we? Plenty of these guys, they're all over the place. But where are all the returns? This is a return air grill. It can also look like this with a damper built into it. And they can be larger, but this is a very, very common size, especially in your bedrooms. There are always a lot more of these around the house versus these. So here's the thing. Your system can only supply and push out what you're returning. Makes sense? So if you don't have enough of these, you're in trouble right off the hop. So, return air grills are larger than supply air grills, but if you're a little bit unsure, it would be worthwhile to have someone like myself come out to look at this for you. Two most common things we see: not enough return air and equipment not sized correctly to the home. Proper heat loss, heat gain analysis needs to be done to ensure that. When we have things like block furnaces, equipment not maintained, not enough return air in the home, guess what? We are impacting our comfort, we are impacting our wallets, we're impacting the utility, we're not helpful to the environment. So making sure we stay on top of these things is extremely important. So with this one, how many of you have seen this before? So this return air would be down low on the floor like this. It'd be down here. And then you'd have another one up high, right directly above it, but no damper in it. You've seen those? So here's the trick. And many times this isn't happening in homes. So there's a damper here. When you're heating, okay? When you're heating, you want this damper, okay? You want, so this is joist, so that damper is gonna sit kind of like that, right? So when that damper is in this position, okay, we're actually now drawing cold air off the floor in the wintertime. Complain we get cold feet in the wintertime. That's gonna draw cold air through there and keep you comfortable. In the summertime, we want to actually be able to do the opposite, pull that closed, so we're now pulling the hot, humid air off the ceiling in the summertime when we're using the air conditioner, because that's where all the hot air goes, right? So make sure we're adjusting those dampers if you have them. So something to watch for. Thermostats and CO detectors. Jonathan brought up CO detectors. November, CO detector month. Can't talk enough about it. It's the law. CO detectors, please make sure that you have one on every single level where there is sleeping, where it's a sleeping area. Okay, you want it outside of the sleeping area, but close by. What we recommend, CO detectors that plug into the wall with a battery backup that has a digital readout. Sometimes you may be feeling a little bit off. You're not too sure why. Take a look at that digital readout. If it's reading 9 parts per million, it may not alarm, but you have an issue. You've got CO coming from somewhere. Also look at the expiry date of the CO detector. It's going to tell you right there if you need to replace that CO detector or not. And test them. Changing batteries for CO detectors and thermostats, it's actually a part of your checklist, but when you make that shift, time change, we just had one. That's a good time to be looking at doing that. Little note with thermostats. Who here turns their thermostat back at night? Makes it a little bit cooler in the home. Okay, that's a good thing. How much are you turning it back by? 3 degrees, Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Celsius.
Celsius? 3 degrees, Fahrenheit or Celsius? Okay, cool.
At least 10 degrees.
10 degrees back? Okay.
From 20 to 15.
Okay. So a couple of things here just to watch for. You really want to be turning your thermostat back no more than 2.5 degrees Celsius. That equals 4 degrees Fahrenheit. If you are within that scale, you are saving money and you're maintaining comfort, right? You're helping with the utility costs. You're being easier on the equipment. If you turn it back more than that, the heating system is having to work far too hard to get back up to temperature again, and it can be costly and it can be expensive on your heating system. The other note there is if you turn it back too far at night and it gets too cool in the home, what happens? Cold air cannot hold moisture as well as warm air. You start to wonder, why am I getting that little bit of a musty, mildewy kind of odor throughout the home? It's because it's too cool in the house, and that's usually evident in the basement because cold air falls to the basement. So if we're not operating the system, we're not moving that airflow and it's getting too cold in certain areas, over time you may start to see some mold spores develop on paper materials, cardboard, furniture, stuff like that. So be careful in terms of where you're turning that back to. Furnace vent termination, talk a bit about furnace venting, and I'm going to be fairly quick here because I've got 5 minutes. So, furnaces. First thing I'm going to share, Technical Standards and Safety Authority in the fire department. They are our police. They're our police. So, this is serious stuff. Please don't go in and work on things that are natural gas related, like literally be working on the burner components of this equipment or be taking venting apart, for example. We are pleased, it's monitored. If we do it and something happens, we're liable. If you're working on something and you're working on something you really shouldn't be working on and something happens, insurance company's involved, it's on you. So please be mindful of that. Safety is first, safety is paramount, always, always, always. But a little bit on furnace notes. Furnace termination. This one here is an intake pipe. And that intake pipe, you have an intake down here and you have an exhaust up here. Wintertime, you've probably all heard this. Snow load, snowstorms, cleaning out the driveway. Make sure that this vent system is not getting blocked. If it does, it's going to throw the pressure switch. You're going to have no heat. What I recommend is that anytime you have had enough snow where you've got to clear the driveway, take your finger and run your finger around the inside about 1.5 inches up of that intake pipe. Here's why. That intake pipe is exactly that. It draws air in. Depending on the temperature and the moisture in the air, it's actually pulling snow in. You'll actually get what's called a snow bridge inside that intake pipe. It'll be like a concave semicircle. You won't see it, but you're going to be wondering, why do I have no heat? So every now and then, please go outside, run your finger up through there. You might even feel that maybe it's starting to form. It's not going to go away because it's cold outside. And then before you know it, it's formed enough and you've got no heat. So just double check on that. The exhaust, see there's water. You get a big icicle hanging from there. Probably good to knock that icicle off if you see it. With venting, and I'm going to fast forward to another slide here. Try and be really fast. I'm so sorry. Venting. You have white pipe. If it's got the orange sticker on it, which is way up high on that one fitting, that tells you it's 636 vent system. That is the appropriate vent method used. Any furnaces installed since 2007 should have that venting on it. If not, it was a no-no. but that venting is a more robust vent system with proper welding materials. Any strapping that's on that vent, you can look at it, make sure it is snug. It should cradle the pipe, never wrap around the pipe. I've seen homeowners time and time again undo the strapping that's there, thinking the strap needs to wrap around the vent and sink back up to the floor joists. Please don't do that. You need to have movement in those joists for expansion and contraction of the heat. So, but if the strap is cradling it, make sure that strap's actually touching the vent, not just free floating. That's okay to do. Do a visual inspection. Make sure none of those joints have come apart. Condensate pump. This guy right here. How many of you have condensate pumps? Lots. How many of you are putting vinegar in here twice a year, about 1 liter? A couple of you. Okay. Recommendation, this holds 2 liters of water. Throw 1 liter in. It will do its job. Do not use bleach. Use vinegar. Okay. Also with floor drains, if you have a floor drain instead of a pump, warm water and a bit of vinegar down the floor drain will help, and it'll help reduce odor, as Jonathan mentioned earlier. Outdoor unit, air conditioner. Look at that thing. That thing's dirty. It's plugged solid. Number one reason, who here has had an air conditioner that's leaked refrigerant? It's extremely common. Every summer we get like loads and loads of these calls. Number one reason is this. That outdoor unit draws air in, it gets dirty. When it gets dirty, that refrigerant runs on high pressure. How do our bodies like high blood pressure? Not well. That's what we're doing. So twice a year, beginning of the cooling season, somewhere towards middle to the end, give that a wash down with your garden hose, regular pressure wash, not blasting it with high pressure water, because if you push these fins over, it's just the same as having a plugged unit. So keep that clean, extremely important. And then, super fast, a lot of you probably do not know that there is a second piece to your air conditioner that sits inside your ductwork up above the furnace. This is the evaporator coil. Your outdoor unit, there's a compressor in here that pumps cold liquid refrigerant in here, and we talked about all this return air ductwork and having enough of it. When you need warm humid air drawing through here, passes by that cold liquid, you get cold air coming up, dehumidified air through the home, and that water drains out. If we have a plugged filter, everybody, this freezes into a great big ball of ice. That can take out your furnace, control board on the furnace, the blower motor. Make sure the filters are clean before you start your air conditioner, okay? Extremely important. Yep, those filters, the air filters. That's it on air conditioning maintenance. And flow-through style humidifier. Little tip, these are the honeycomb panels that are inside. Manufacturer says use CLR, don't. CLR, they want you to because it strips the clay base off of this. This is actually brand new. This is a brand new panel. It looks like it's plugged. It's meant to look like this. CLR will take that clay substance off, and now you can stick your finger through it, and you've got a useless humidifier panel. Do not use CLR. It just needs to be replaced at the beginning of the heating season. And last, UV light. This one here, by the way, you can change these UV lights themselves. This UV light is meant to keep this guy clean. This evaporator coil sits in pitch black, it's ice cold, it's super wet. Guess what? Creates mold and mildew. So keeping your air filter, and you got air blowing through the house. So to help keep that clean, keep your filters changed, add a UV light up in the ductwork above it shining down. It will prevent that from getting all yucky and dirty. These are easy for you to change, but when you change them, don't do what I'm doing and grab this bulb with your fingers. You want to be very, very cautious in handling these lights. If you do that anywhere where you touch, it loses its ability to be able to have that UV do its job. And HRVs, ERVs, super easy. This is the core that's inside of them. Some of you may have this. These cores, these just get washed with warm soapy water. This gets rinsed with hot water, and every single manufacturer writes down exactly what the homeowner needs to do to maintain it. which is nice. And there's a drain on here. Open up the door, put a little bit of vinegar in so you're cleaning that out. And one thing we forget to do is inspect the outside hoods, not only for a ventilation system, but a dryer like Jonathan shared. Make sure you're cleaning all of that these are not blocked. When they're blocked, you can create negative pressure and positive pressure that can damage your home, and it can be unsafe. So please watch for that as well. And that is it, I promise. Thank you.